Hi. Today in this session we'll be dealing with hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is just a tentative statement or it is a guess which has to be proved or disproved based on the level of significance in statistics. So hypothesis is a starting of an investigation. So it explains what is going to happen further and how the investigation will go through. It consists of variables, a population, and relationship between the variables. Now, coming to the sources of hypothesis, the main sources of hypothesis are previous study, personal experiences, thinking, and imagination, then scientific theory. Then, coming to the types of hypothesis, there are 7 types of hypothesis. So the first type is simple hypothesis, so which is also known as basic hypothesis. It just depicts the relationship between two variables. Example: icebergs melt as a result of global warming. So the cause in this case is global warming, and the effect is melting of icebergs. Now, the second hypothesis is complex hypothesis. Complex hypothesis is multiple dependent and independent variables. So here, for example, global warming causes icebergs to melt, which leads to significant changes in the weather patterns too. So here, the cause in this case is global warming, but the effect is melting icebergs along with changing weather also. So it is known as complex hypothesis. Now, coming to null hypothesis is just a contradiction to the empirical hypothesis because it asserts that there is no relationship between the dependent and independent variables. So it basically says that the data and variable being tested do not exist. So, for example, water has no effect on plants growth. So hypothesis, it is logically verified, and as its name implies, the verification process entails the following steps: that is, agreement, disagreement, different points of view. For example, an animal cannot survive in the absence of water. So this is correct because all living living creatures require water to survive. So, so this is what is logical hypothesis. Then next one is empirical hypothesis. So empirical hypothesis is also known as working hypothesis. So during the formulation phase, it is only an assumption, but once tested, it is no longer just an idea or notion. So it is actually changing in relation to those independent variables. So for example, cotton clothing is preferred rather than velvet clothing in the times of summer. Okay, so this is the best example which we can give for empirical hypothesis. Then the last type of hypothesis is statistical hypothesis. So the statistical hypothesis a statement could be logical or illogical, but if statistical evidences validates it, it becomes statistical hypothesis.